So to set up, place the fob tile right in the middle, and then after that, we're going to place tiles in a cross. And once that's completed, then we'll be able to go and put them all around in any order we want. So starting with the coalition, we'll go and place tiles out. And now we'll just fill them in any way we want. And that's how we build our map. So let's go over what the different tiles mean. This tile has a gorge through it, and this represents a bridge tile in the middle. And that's important for some of the cards that have ambushes on them, and for some of the victory conditions. Also for victory conditions, this is a poppy tile. This is the only one out there that's got this bright pink and purple color to it. You'll see some of these and you'll think these are different, but these are just aesthetics, just a green tile. So don't get these confused for anything else. However, this does give us a good chance to look at the roads. See, there's roads going through here. That's how you're gonna move your units in and out of the map. So you're gonna wanna pay attention to where the roads lead and where they end. After you set up the district, set up the calendar, put the counter, the tracker on the march, keep these white cubes nearby in case winter comes early, and then they'll start marking off the winter. Then you're gonna place 2 school tiles and 2 fort tiles on top of the fob. Now, when you add a fort die, you are going to be adding this die to your battles when you're defending. And this die has 4 faces. We'll talk about combat in a little bit, but 4 faces and effects are good. So being able to add one of these die for every fort that you have up there, up to 2, is very good for combat. So this is a very strong defensive position there because you're able to add 2 of the fort dice to your battles. Both sides will take their tactics deck, shuffle it, and then draw 2 cards at random, and this starts your tactics deck. Next, you put the control markers out. These are double-sided. We're going to start off by putting the coalition control on the fob, and then it's up to the Taliban player which 2 tiles they want to control, anywhere else on the map. Next, place the starting units onto the map. Blue units are the American units, and they start on the fob. Green units are the Afghan army units, and they start on the fob. And then it's up to the Taliban player where they want to place their units. They're going to have 8 units. They have to go on tiles the Taliban controls, and they can split them up any way they want. In this case, we're going to keep it even. Put 4 on each tile. So the next part of this is we're going to put the Afghan loyalty onto the map. So you're going to take your population disc bag, you're going to pull out 11 discs, and then I'm going to show you what these discs look like. Now, on the back of it, I've got both coalition and Taliban discs here. You can't tell that when they're face down like this, and that's the whole point of the game. However, once you flip them, you're going to see that there are 4 different choices. You've got Taliban and coalition decoys. They don't have a flag on it, so they're there only to deceive. If they have a flag, they are true believers. So here's a true Taliban loyalist, and here's a coalition loyalist. And the number of coalition or the number of loyalists that you have on a tile determines who actually controls the tile. That's how you tell the difference between that. In each bag, there are half of them are decoys and half of them are going to be loyalists. So from the bag, you're going to draw 11 random population discs. You can look at them, and that's very important on how you're going to play the game. There's some memory involved in this. So you're going to want to kind of separate them so that you have some idea of where your true believers are, your loyalists, and where the decoys are. Now from this point on, you're going to place each of these one at a time, one disc on every tile, including the fob. The fob could change loyalties here. So you're going to place your side, or your discs out there, and then the other player is going to place theirs out. What we recommend is, say if the coalition player started down here on this side, and say we have the Taliban up here on this side, then you'll place your tokens on the edge of a tile closest to you, and that way you guys don't have to go and put them, one at a time. You can put them out as you see fit, and everybody can put them out there. The only thing that matters is that there's going to be one token at this end and one token at that end. So we're going to start off. I'm going to be the coalition player. I'm going to put my control to help me memorize this while I'm playing the game. I'm going to make sure that I've got loyalists on this side of the map. And since I think I'm going to keep the fob under control, I'm going to curl it around like this. And then I'm going to place the rest of these out here. Now, I'm doing this to show you an example of how I've got it set up. During the game, you're going to place them face down. You don't want to tell the other player where your believers are, where their loyalists are, and where your decoys are. So this is what your side is going to look like when you complete. We've gone ahead and we placed same amount of tokens, same amount of discs, out there for the Taliban. So now there is 2 discs on every tile, and that's the way we need to have it set up. Next thing, both sides have their victory cards. Now these are the orders that you're going to get from your commander to tell you what your objectives are in the game. This is a combination of area control, where you get a point for each tile you control at the end, and whatever your victory cards are. One of the things that happens a lot to new players is they get really focused on what's happening out here on the map, and they forget about these cards. So throughout the game, if you don't have this like at the top of your mind, try to remember to go look at what your victory cards are, and remember that this is also what you're working towards, not just the number of tiles that you control on the map. I'm going to go and shuffle these up. When you do this, you're going to draw 4 at random. Look at them. And some of these cannot be combined with another card on here. So you're going to make sure that you don't have 2 of these. And when you see those, these are going to be, here's an example. Conduct at least 3 attacks gets you 2 victory points. Conduct the most attacks gives you 3 victory points. So what we don't want to do is combine these 2 attack cards together, because then that's all this person's going to do is attack, attack, attack. So that's why you cannot combine those. Make sure when you're setting this game up and you're choosing your cards, you don't set yourself up for failure by choosing 2 of those that can't be combined. So this is simple. Control every poppy tile gets you a victory point. So all the ones that have the most on it, control the most, or conduct the most patrols, conduct the most attacks, they're going to have 3 victory points. Those that have conduct at least 3 of these things are worth 2. So you've got competition when you choose a 3 victory point card. This one is just, the 2s are just up to you to make sure that you get that done before the end of the game. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to be a little bit bold. I'm going to conduct the most attack actions, and then I'm going to try to control the poppy fields. So I'm going to select these 2, the other ones just go away. And so I'm not going to put these face up because I don't want the other player to know what my victory cards are.
or what my victory objectives are. So I'm just going to set those off to the side. I can look at them throughout the game, but they're going to remain hidden. And the Taliban player is going to do the same thing. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare our operations by putting our 5 different types of operations under a number here on our player board. And that number is going to correspond with how powerful that action is. So for example, right now, this card, the declare action, is under the 0, so it's at the least powerful. Whereas over here, the recruit action is under the 4, and now this is the most powerful action this will be. These are what you're going to do each turn, so I'm going to go through each one of these to explain what each card does. This one right here for recruiting, this number, which since it was under the 4 is a 4, means that we are able to recruit 4 units, Afghan units, added to tiles you control. So if I play this right now, under the 4, I can add 4 Afghan units to the only tile I control, which is the fob. Important to note on this for recruiting for the coalition player, these are only Afghan units. You will never add any more American units. So this is just for the green coalition units. Now you noticed that there are some tiles out here. I'll bring these closer. Here we have a fort. It has a black die on it, and that matches with the black die that you get to roll when you are defending a tile that has a fort in it. And then you see this picture over here, this icon. It says school, and this adds +1 population control. It's as if you had another population disk of loyalists, as long as you have this under your control. When you build, they have to be built into a tile that you control. And there's a limit of 4 that can be 4 buildings that can be added to any tile. So since the fob tile already has 4 on it, you'd have to control another tile to be able to play this. But the construct is pretty simple. This is the number of schools or forts that can be built. So since this was under 3, then 3 is the number of schools or forts that you can build on this turn with this action. I'm going to switch to attack. Now attack is 2 parts. Number 1, this is the number of units to move. So if I did this under 1, I could only move 1 unit. Let's say, make this a little bit trickier. This was under 2. So now this is, I can move 2 units, and then that same number is the number of tiles I can move, starting with the first tile moved into. This is the maximum you can, and if you go off-road, then you have to stop. So this, you could go into 2 tiles, but that's up to how you play this. So I'm going to give you an example. We have 2 units we can move, so I'm going to take an American and I'm going to take an Afghan, and I am going to move them along this road. You have to follow the roads, so that's 1 tile I moved, and the road goes through here, so I'm able to continue to go up here, and now I can attack. Had I gone on this way, you probably can't see it here. The road continues through here, but then from here to here, it stops. So I can go here, because this is my first time I go off-road. The first time you go off-road, you have to stop in the new tile. If I had a 3, let's say I tried to do something strange, like work my way all around here, I'd have to stop here at my second movement because I went off-road. The first time you move into when you go off-road, going on, that means you have to stop there. So either way, I'm here, I've got 2 units, and now I can attack. We'll cover how the actual attack works, but this is how the movement works when you want to launch an attack. If you use the attack card, you actually have to attack somebody. You can't just do that to move. So then you say, well, how can I just move? Well, that's where the patrol action comes in. So this reads very similar to the attack action, because it's the number of units you can move, and
the number of tiles you can go. However, you can also drop off units along the way. And another key point to this is you add a population disk to each tile that was controlled. So if I play this, and again I'm going to move this around. Let's say this was 2, so I get to move 2 units, and I'm going to go and drop off 2 tiles ideally. So I'm going to have an Afghan unit go 1 here, and I'm going to go 1 here. Since I've gone into these 2 tiles, then I get to go at random, pull, and put a disc out on each one of those tiles. I can't put 2 on one and ignore the other. I can only put 1 disc on each one. So I'm gonna look, and I have 2 loyalists. So I'm going to add those here. Now, you don't have to keep putting them on your side. You can make a nice big stack, and if you've got people with OCD tendencies, that's generally what they do. That's what I do, because I have those tendencies. So you just put those out there, and that's a way to gain control, and it's also a way for you to move your units around there without having to go into combat. If you're patrolling, you can't end in a place where the other guy is, because that's what an attack action is. So you can only go where they are not. So that's what patrol is. All right, so now let's take a look at one of the trickiest probably card to understand. And this is the declare. First thing that happens is whatever number you're under, this is the number of population discs you get to add. Again, I'm going to shuffle this around. Let's say that this was a 3 instead. So I can reach into my bag, I'll pull out 1, 2, 3 at random. What did I get? You always get to look. And this is what I got. I got 2 decoys, and I've got a loyalist. So I can put these anywhere I want, anywhere on the board. So I am going to make it look like I care a lot about this bridge and this bridge. And I'm going to put 1 here. Since there are some victory conditions that are based off bridges and some that are based off of poppies, right now the Taliban player won't know which one I'm after. So I hopefully make them think that I care more about the bridges by putting those decoys out there, but really I'm after the poppy over here. That's why I put the real one over there, the loyalist. So that's the first step for declare. The second step on this is you get to peek at 1 tile's population. So let's say I've kind of forgotten how things went, and I didn't know initially who controls what, but this one here, this area here, I care a lot about because one of my victory conditions is that poppy. So I'm going to go grab all the discs, I'm going to turn them over, and now I'm going to see what really is going on here. So I've got a Taliban loyalist and I've got 2 coalition loyalists. So I've got more control here right now. That's important to know, because then the next step for declare, the last step, is you declare control on 1 tile. You have to do this if you play this action. So if you feel shaky, or you, for whatever reason, don't want to declare control on other places because you're really uncertain about, or you are very certain that you're not going to control that, you can't pick an area you already control. Like I could say, you know what, I'm going to declare the fob, and then you turn those over, and there we go. In this case, you would think that the Taliban would have control of this because this is just a decoy. However, we also have the 2 schools that are out there, and every unit that's on a tile counts as a loyalist. So if I'm looking up here, I've got 5 Americans, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coalition or 7 Afghan army. I've got 2 schools, so I'm at 5 plus 7 is 12, 13, 14. So yes, they have more population discs, but as far as the other control aspects, I've got 14, they've got 1. So we easily maintain control here. Now, I probably actually want to use control and declare control on this tile because I care about poppy, because that's one of my secret objectives, and I know from looking at this that I control this. So I'm going to declare this tile. So what happens next? first of all, if we had any decoys, they go back in each other's bags. They're just gone, no more decoys. Then, as far as loyalists, they cancel each other out. So these two are going to go back into the bag, leaving only one disc, which is the coalition. Then I put that, even though we all know what this is, they're going to put it face down because there could be more discs that are added. But most importantly, that's going to give control of that tile to the coalition. So I get to go and add that control marker on it. Now these control markers are double-sided, and once a control marker comes out there, it never goes away. So from this point on, in the rest of the game, someone's going to control this. It can't be neutral anymore because someone controlled it at one point during the game. So that is the very basics of how the card actions occur. And I say that in the beginning because it's important at this point to figure out what order you want to have your cards set up. You can go and place them, each of these actions, wherever you want as far as how powerful you want to start the game with that. There's a little bit of deception with this, perhaps. You don't want to necessarily show construction is number one, and then this is your construction card, because that kind of gives away what's really important to you. So maybe instead, you decide you want to declare, you want to get some more population out there, then you have your construct there. And then after that, maybe after you've constructed or declared more, maybe you want to fill them up with more units, maybe you want to put some more patrol out there, and then maybe you put attack at the end. Once you set your order, that's how you're going to play out the game. So it's important then that you want to set this up in a manner that doesn't telegraph how you want to win the game, doesn't telegraph what your victory conditions are, but at the same time sets you up so that you can get the most success you can. So let's talk about what happens each turn. On the player board, when you zoom in, you can see the turn sequence. First there's an event card, then we add population, draw player cards, coalition takes their action, the Taliban takes their action, and then we see, we do our turn or the game end. We're gonna do this each time. So let's go through this step by step. First thing is you're gonna take an event card. Event cards, just random events that occur. Each turn is a month in the game. So we start in March and then we move up from there. So let's take this card. Winter. Add a winter cube to an empty winter month on the calendar starting in December. So this shortens the game. And put that aside, and I'm going to put a cube on December. What that means is, as we march through the calendar, this game will not have a December turn because it's already been taken out by this winter card. So that's how. Next, let's add population. You add population discs based off how many tiles you control. So we always start with the coalition first, and then we do the Taliban on everything we do. So here, the coalition has 2 tiles that they control. So we're gonna have 2 draws, and let's see what we have. We have 2 decoys. So then we'll put our 2 decoys out there. We're gonna continue to pretend that we care a lot about these bridges there. And now the Taliban player is going to do the same thing. They're gonna reach into their bag, and they're going to pull out. And in this case, they've got 2 loyals. So then, let's say that they really do care about the bridges. So they're gonna put a loyalist on each of these bridge tiles. So that is the step 2, adding population. Then, each player is going to draw and add 1 more card, 1 more tactics card to their hand. And then after that, the coalition is going to take an action, and then the Taliban is going to take an action. Let's say in this case, the coalition decides to go and take the declare action. So they're going to add 4, because they're under the 4 population discs. Let's see what we have. And we have a lot of decoys and a troop waiting. So we've seen the Taliban player put a bunch of discs onto the bridge tile, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to keep adding those fake ones. Then the real one here, we're going to put that on this poppy field right there. Okay, then we're going to go peek at one tile's population. So we're going to take a look at this one here because we have a coalition unit there, so that's going to give us a +1, which was important because as we look at this, we have decoys going away, and now we're 1-on-1, so both of these, all of these tiles are going away. So what's left? We have one coalition unit, which means we still get control for this tile, barely. So there, we got that done. So now what happens? Once you've taken your action under wherever this is, it goes away, and then everything else advances to the right, and the card that was just played, the action was just taken, goes under the 0. So it resets. So you're thinking to yourself, wow, there's not that many turns in the game. We're only playing out 1 year, and it's only parts of that. So how is this going to be that if I really needed to do another declare action, how could I go and do that? Well, you can do that by looking at your tactics cards, deciding that, well, these are all good cards. You have 2 declare cards. One's a +1 to your control, and then the air assault. You don't really want to give up any of these, but let's say it was worth it. You decide to get rid of this card, and you're going to discard it. Won't use it again in the game. When you discard that, that gives you the option then to go and flip any 2 cards in your lineup. So let's say you don't really care about construction, but you do want to declare again. So you can burn that card even before you take your action and flip these around. So now construction is at 0 and declare is at 4 again. That's how you can alter that. There's a cost that comes with it, but that's a way that you can go and work around the order to some degree before you go and conduct an event. All right, there, the coalition took their action. Now we're going to go with the Taliban. Let's say the Taliban decides that they're going to burn a card. And we've got a fatwa, night letters, village declares. These are all good. Again, let's say they decide to burn this up. Leaving these other 2 cards there, they want to make the attack action strong because I want to show you how attack works. Now, we're attacking over here under a 4. So, number of units you can move, number of tiles you can move into. So, this is our action. I'm going to slide all of these over here. I'm going to keep that there. No, I've already taken it. And then I'm going to go and take my movement over here. So, I'm going to go 1, I got 4 units, so that's my max. 1 tile, 2 tiles, and I didn't go off-road, so I'm all set. So now I got 4 Taliban units, and there's 1 Afghan unit. So now we're gonna roll dice to find out who's gonna win this. Now our Afghan and our Taliban dice are basically the same thing, they're just different colors. There are 2 hits, these explosions on here, and then 4 blanks. And it's the same way with the Taliban. So 1 in 3 chance basically of each one of these hitting. Probably saying to yourself, well, what about to those blue dice? Well, the blue dice, the American dice, are a little bit different. There are 1, 2, 3 explosions on here, and they've got a helmet which blocks 1 hit that goes against your forces. So they have good results on 4 sides with only 2 blank. So they're very handy to have in battle. In this case, we've just got Afghans on Afghans, Taliban versus the army. So I'm going to roll 1 die for each of the units in there. And I only have 3 dice that come with the game, so I'll have to re-roll 1 of these, and then I have 1 Taliban die. I'm going to roll these and see what we get. Nothing happened. Lots of shooting, a lot of ammunition expended, and no change in the battlefield, which is not uncommon in Afghanistan. Okay, so what that means is we're going to keep everybody in the same space. So it's okay that they're here. What implication does that have? Well, now if someone were to go and declare on that tile, the Taliban has a lot more power in that tile than before. So they've really expanded their reach and their power in that one tile. So that's how attacks work. You could have cards in your hand, and these decks are a bit asymmetric. So in the tactic deck, you can go and find some cards like this. F-16, add 1 US die to any coalition battle. So I could have taken that and had an American die rolled into there, which would have blocked something had there been anything to block. So that's an example. You can just play these cards out of your tactics hands that you've drawn during any of these battles. You also have, some of these cards have this lightning symbol on here on both sides, and this play on Taliban players' turn after they declare what action is taken. -1 Taliban activity level when taking a declare or recruit action. So say the Taliban were under a 4, you play this card when they tried to declare, and now they're as if they were under a 3 for their action level. So that's how these cards work. Okay, so we've gone through there, we've taken our actions, we'll adjust that. We'll keep doing this, taking turns back and forth until we've reached the end of the game over here in the calendar, which could be as early as the end of the September turn, or it could be as late as the December turn. It all depends on how many winter cards are played throughout the game. So we talked about how the game is going to end. It's an area control from the standpoint that you get 1 victory point for each tile that you control. Let's say that the game ended right now. We're going to look at this, and we've got 1, 2 tiles for the Taliban, and 1, 2, 3 for the coalition. So if nothing else was there, it's 2 versus 3. Right now, the coalition's going to win. Let's take a look at what their victory cards were. I get 1 extra victory point for every coalition poppy tile. So we control 1 more. So now we're at 4. And then who conducted the most attack actions? Well, right now, the only attack action that's occurred has been the Taliban. So in this very, very short game, we would not have gotten that. So we only gained the 1 extra victory point from there. So that gave us 1 victory point. Let's find out what the Taliban had. So they have conduct at least 3 attack actions and then have the most Afghan units. So at this point, they've only conducted 1 attack action, so this did not occur. And then here, now we're going to count number of Afghan units, not American units, but Afghan units. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, so there's 8 for the Taliban, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for the coalition. So with that, the Taliban are not going to get the advantage of this victory condition, so they don't get anything else. So now it is 4 versus 2, and if the game were to end right now, this would be a victory for the coalition. So that is how to play Zurmat.